The fact that Liam Cohen's an offensive coach doesn't guarantee for me that he's going to be a wide receiver. But the point is, there's some version of a good football player in there. Whether it's an offensive player or defensive player, your chances of neither being true are pretty low. I think they're going to be happy with the pick. Welcome to the Greenlight Podcast presented by BetMGM. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code GREENLIGHT, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code GREENLIGHT. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. If that bet loses, you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Just make sure you use bonus code GREENLIGHT when you sign up. Welcome to the show. This show is being recorded from my man cave at the house. I've got Nolan. I've got Dr. Fax. I've got Macon. Tanner's in here working the machines because Cowboy Reed and Bo are in Green Bay at the draft. The 2025 NFL draft, which I would deem to be a low-energy draft. Two trades thus far in the first round, waiting on the 29th pick for Washington. One of the trades was a huge pump fake. Take it away, Macon.
On its face, Jackson.
On his face.
Jackson, on its face. Jackson with an X. Last name Dart. Ole Miss pedigree. You think maybe not the easiest guy to root for. Not so fast. What we have in Jackson Dart is the second coming of Josh Allen. 4 inches shorter? Sure. 25 pounds lighter? Yeah.
Sure.
But he's a white quarterback.
Well, when I was
hair on his head.
I got to tell you, when I squinted a little bit during his highlights, I wasn't sure. That's a good thing.
You guys like Minshew though, right? He could be another Minshew.
Great, Minshew. And
Can we set the
really
heights higher? Set
All
the
right.
sights higher.
Abdul Carter.
No, listen, I'm coming around on the Jackson Dart thing.
Yeah. Look, as I told you when we watched his 3 highlights of 3 completed passes, poise, eyes up, steps up in the pocket, very pliant, a la Tom Brady.
Ball didn't hit the ground.
Ball didn't hit the ground.
So good pick by New York. It's just kind of indicative of the whole first round when everybody's on the edge of their seat and we're like, oh, here it comes, Sanders. Even you were like, hey, New York's going to trade up and get Sanders.
Yep.
And, nah, it's Jackson Dart, who looks – did you say this? He looks old and young at the same time. I think he looks young, but you're right. The more I'm doing some Google image search, and he looks like simultaneously 42 and 16.
Yeah. And people are doing some weird things with his wiki right now. He's currently 2 feet, 2 inches tall on wiki. And he's from Romania instead of Utah.
All right, well, let's get down to it. Go ahead.
Middle name Chase. Jackson Chase Dart.
He sounds like a fictional quarterback, honestly.
Yeah.
Chase Dart.
2 feet 2 hurts the Josh Allen comp.
It really
It does. Well, so here's the deal. The story of the night's going to be Shedeur Sanders, obviously. What does it really mean to that player? Well, if at the end of the first round he were to get picked by a team I thought he could go to LA. Like, honestly, once the trade was made to move up for the Giants into the first round and everything we just talked about transpired, I was like, hey, LA would be a perfect landing spot for him. How many teams get to really stick the landing on replacing a Hall of Fame quarterback in phase? Great structure, great offensive system. But they didn't go that direction. And now it's Buffalo in real time, 5 minutes left on the clock, Kansas City, Philly. You know, like I would say for Shedeur Sanders, and it's easy for me to say, but honestly, as a second-generation football player who, quite frankly, didn't have as much money as he has, honestly. I mean, like, this guy probably made $5 million playing college football this year. He shouldn't give a fuck about the money.
Yeah.
Okay, I got 2 tabs open. I got Jaden Daniels' salary. It's $8.6 million in 2025. Okay, and I got Josh Allen's. He just signed a 6-year, $330 million extension. So what's important is not the first paycheck. What's important is the first landing spot. What I'm hopeful for his sake is that he gets the best of both worlds, or not the worst of both worlds. Worst of both worlds is you slide into the second early on and the Browns take you.
Well, and the Browns own 2 of the first 4 picks in the second round.
And that's what I said going into this draft was like, watch, the Browns are going to wait around. They're going to get a quarterback and maybe a good one in Shedeur Sanders. I don't know. But the point is, like for him, he could get scooped up at the end of the first. Doesn't look like it's going to happen. Or he could lose out on all that first round money, which he doesn't need, right? We just talked about that. It's easy for me to say that sitting on the couch.
What's the gap between pick 31 and the first pick in it, like the money gap?
It's for me, it's not really about the money gap from that point. It's the gap in circumstance.
Yeah.
The money gap exists from 1 to 33 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But the point is, like, you can have a really good weekend and go 31 or 30 and succeed some quarterback or, join a team that's pretty good and maybe their quarterback just retired or something like that. In years past, you see situations like that. But it looks like he's going to get passed up altogether. Easy for me to say, it's not really about, like, tonight. It's about, like, the next 10 years for a professional quarterback. But pretty uncomfortable. They've kept the camera out of his situation, which is nice. It's not like a truly like seated square on like kind of Aaron Rodgers shot. It looks to be like Dion off in the corner, Shedeur.
Well-off media. their whole media team is there on deck. They probably told them, hey, we got this. Like, we don't need you guys running this narrative tonight just in case it doesn't go well. And they probably made the right choice by that.
Well, it looks like it's laid out, so we're not going to get a bunch of embarrassing like shots of Shedeur looking dejected as this whole thing. Although Gilly the kid, who's there, seems pretty pissed off, understandably. Mm-hmm. You knew they had to be prepared for this. There was chatter about this happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Like if anybody has a lot of insight into what's happening in the NFL, it's Dion.
Yeah.
Right. So the Bills are going to be picking here in a second, but I figure that's the biggest story of the draft tonight as it stands at 11:28 p.m. We're not going to spend all night talking about this draft, but I say we go through pick by pick and just give our thoughts. Obviously, the first pick is Cam Ward. Not a big surprise. The thing I like about him is his experience. I really do. 57 starts. They talked about that. I do think he's the best quarterback in the draft. I'm no expert, but to me it was pretty clear. And Titans get their guy. A year removed from the owner of the team saying, hey, we've got this exciting young quarterback, and that gives me a lot of hope for the future. That's how quickly it changes in the NFL. It took about a month for them to figure out he wasn't the guy.
Hands down, best Selly of the draft. He has his own celebration already.
So can we come back to this? You think that's his celebration? Is it?
I do think it is his celebration. I think he's been doing it in college,
and it's an audio podcast. You got to tell people what the celebration is.
It does look like maybe what they do in Alabama for the elephant trunk. But he has his hand over his other hand over his mouth. So I don't know if it's like a diss, if that's how it started. But whatever it is, there's guys in NFL already doing it. So I think if something
like Jalen Waddle,
if something
who went to Alabama,
a guy
I've definitely
in what
seen
you call
Isaiah
it?
Likely do it.
Say it again.
You seen Isaiah Likely do it?
I swear I've seen it.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Carolina guy.
Say it again.
He's Coastal Carolina, so it wouldn't be.
And that's what I'm saying. I think guys just like the celebration and they're doing it. But I believe he was the first one that made it.
Okay, I'll go with that. Yeah, hey, you're the resident expert on Sellies. I'm the one who a year ago thought the seatbelt was a sword in a sheath.
I still think so.
I still think they're putting a sword in a sheath. By the way, Buffalo just drafted a corner out of Kentucky who's got
Maxwell Hairston.
Maxwell, you like him? You know much about him?
Yeah, I think there's a starter starter ceiling there for sure. A little handsy at times, but he's got the movement skills. He's got the ball skills.
Get the mitts. Yeah. Get him the mitts.
And they need
that's a hell of a jacket.
They brought back Dane Jackson, but they need a corner opposite Benford. So
and this was what we talked about with Buffalo. Like
there's something about that jacket that says he's going to fit in Buffalo perfectly. That's a perfect pick.
Something about that jacket that says you're not going to wear that much in Buffalo.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, so when they walked off the field having lost that last game to Kansas City, I thought it was a real shame, and I thought the thing that really hurt them was their secondary. I mean, Elam had to play a lot of snaps.
Yep.
They were beat up, but no amount of injuries could explain away the shape of that room. Like, that room has to be better. Immediately, you invest in that room. Nolan says he's a little bit handsy.
Oh, my bad.
But throw the kitchen sink at the secondary.
Yep.
It's that situation. So you got Cam Ward 1. Make you a fan?
No. My Cam Ward comp is Will Levis. And I'm
damn.
Wow.
I'm just not sold on it.
One of my favorite moments from the pre-draft process was friend of the program, Nate Tice, gave a Rodney Mullen comp for Cam Ward. Rodney Mullen, the great skateboarder, using that analogy to speak to kind of the freedom, the creativity with which he plays. So a lot of playmaking potential, but you got to get him playing inside structure.
Creativity for me with the quarterback rarely works. I like that the comp was Patrick Mahomes, and then they showed a very reckless shovel pass, a knuckle of a shovel pass, just like I'm going down sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like I think
you've seen Levis make that move.
That's risky.
Let's not comp people to Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
Unless their name's Caleb Williams.
Now, an interesting scenario here. The Eagles, who were slotted at 32, have moved up one spot with the Chiefs.
Yes.
They gave him a 5th-round pick to do so.
Interesting trading with a team that you just took behind the woodshed.
Really, really interesting. I don't know what the details
whoever
would be
Philly
there.
was worried that KC would
Shedeur?
take.
They must have wanted the same guy, I guess.
But KC must not
want him bad enough.
Or the Eagles and somebody else wanted the same guy.
True.
And KC's taking photos.
So again, the Eagles are on the board right now. The pick is in. Everybody thought there was momentum building that they'd be taking the safety from Georgia.
Yep.
He ends up going to Baltimore.
Yep.
Right now we're watching with no sound, so we'll see the pick soon.
So let me ask you guys this. So
another safety on the board still.
Goodell in the NFL, like the same thing with the hats. The jerseys with the guys' names on it, they have a bunch of jerseys with your names on the back, or 32, assumingly, just in case a trade or something crazy happens.
That's interesting.
Because it's just like, how do you know where they're going?
The hat thing's a lot simpler. Nate's asking because some of the people at home, we've noticed, have 31 other hats besides the one that they put on their head upon being picked. So, like, it's a situation where, like, a bunch of people are getting, 31 other hats in that player's hometown. So the question is, do they have 32 jerseys made up
with that guy's last name on it? Like,
I'm not really sure the answer.
I think they all have the jersey
so
number
that means they
1
know?
for the first round. So it's just a bunch of ones. It's not the actual pick number.
So there's no name on.
But there's a name though.
And then I think they're just screen printing the name
as it happens.
Yeah,
like very
that quick.
Fast.
I think so. It's just an iron.
That's quite interesting.
They iron it on.
Yeah, so
was your name on yours?
Mine? I don't remember.
Surely there's a picture.
I really don't remember.
Around here.
I blacked that whole thing out. Okay, so Cam Ward, he's going to be the guy in Tennessee. The question is obviously, like, do you want him to be the guy from day one? I think it's pointless to speculate right now. If I were, Coach Callahan, I would want to play Will Levis to start the season. Like, I just think that's a good way to go. I mean, Jaden Daniels, he went right out there this year, took his lumps in Tampa. They got their asses kicked.
Yeah.
And then he improved. Like, he's the outlier. I like a quarterback to start on the bench maybe the first couple games of the season, unless Tennessee really thinks they're very good right now, and this kid shows up in the offseason and into training camp and looks, like lights out. If you're not sure, I always like, playing the guy, especially with that offensive line. I know they've invested in it, but like until you're sure that the table's set for the kid, personally, I always lean that way.
Right. Yeah, I mean the Mahomes comp came up, definitely not fair, but people forget he had a redshirt year. He sat the whole year behind Alex Smith, so the best in the league, he didn't do it right away. He wasn't thrown in the fire right away, and who knows what percentage of his success now, had to do with that.
I just look back at Callahan last year, looking so frustrated with Will Levis at times.
Yeah.
Like there is part of that where it's like, okay, I just don't want to deal with that shit anymore. But you also have to consider each coach's leash.
For sure.
Right. And I don't know how long his is.
Right.
But they just switched GMs.
Yep.
Callahan is in his second year.
Yep.
And the first year was very frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
So, like he might not feel like he has a tremendously long leash. That could dictate, the onboarding plan for a Cam Ward. But the second pick in the draft was the big splash of the night. And it feels like a no-brainer, right? Like he feels like the guy that is going to be special in the draft. There's always going to be guys that you don't know are going to be special, end up being Hall of Famers. But if I had to like gun to my head who's going to be a Hall of Famer from tonight, like, and I might be biting the cheese, but it's Travis Hunter for me.
Easy.
I mean, he's a Heisman Trophy winner. And here's the biggest way I think about it. Like, I don't necessarily think it's productive to think, hey, we're going to play a guy 120 snaps a week, as somebody put it. Like, that to me, it's hard to imagine an NFL body holding up. And, boy, is he built to play football or do something super athletic. I mean, you can just see it, him moving around on stage. He looks like Gumby. Like, he's an outlier. We get it. But it is a physical game.
Wow.
Eagles go with a linebacker.
From the SEC.
Jihad Campbell. From Bama.
Wow.
Jihad.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Jihad. I'm not really sure. Jihad Ward. Shout out to Jihad Ward.
Holy Ward.
Defensive lineman from Philly. Now they draft Jihad Campbell from Bama. We'll talk more about him in a minute. But the point I wanted to make was the safety in moving up to make that pick, relatively speaking, is that you cut your chances of the pick just completely busting in half. Mm-hmm. Like you really do. I mean, it sounds stupid, but it's that simple. It's like, what are the chances there's not a pretty good corner in there? What are the chances there's not a pretty good wide receiver in there? What are the chances there's neither? I think that the chances of that being the reality is very low. So like part of it is you could look at it like, oh, they probably want to play this guy 120 snaps a week. I don't think so. I tend to side with the guys up on TV tonight who are kind of throwing a little bit of cold water on that and saying, hey, like, listen, the NFL is physical. It's a lot to ask of a kid. Let's just get him out there and see what he does well. There were a couple guys that were like, he's going to play both. Well, he probably will have some packages. If he's a corner, they'll have packages for him. The fact that Liam Cohen's an offensive coach doesn't guarantee for me that he's going to be a wide receiver. But the point is, there's some version of a good football player in there. Whether it's an offensive player or defensive player, your chances of neither being true are pretty low. I think they're going to be happy with the pick.
For sure. Yeah, and whether his home position, whatever it is, offensively or defensively, he upgrades them on either side of the ball. When Liam Cohen was talking about that receiver room recently, I think it was a couple weeks ago, he'd even mentioned Gabe Davis's name, and there's, some stuff to figure out with his contract, but he might not be here by the time the season starts. So he gives you, another
insurance
receiver, right, opposite Brian Thomas. And then on the other side of the ball, you need a corner opposite Tyson Campbell. So he's an upgrade either way.
Well, I think they need a corner worse than they need a wide out. But
sure.
I also understand he's an offensive coach. Some interesting choices. The linebacker from Bama who just going to Philly, he's shirtless with a vest on.
Not
fits
tonight.
right in
his B-roll footage.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting look. You should try that one.
Yeah, maybe.
But the point is, like, I feel good about the pick because I just feel like this kid's got something special in his body.
Yep.
And he seems to be a guy that just gets how to be a pro. Like, he's going to be a pro. Like, that's the profile in this guy's personality. Nate said something funny earlier, having played in Jacksonville. He's like, if this guy likes fishing and staying locked in and just hanging around the house, he's going to love Jacksonville.
Perfect spot.
This is the perfect spot for him. And listen, I think, having the 2 and the 5 switched, right? So they jumped up from 5 to get to 2. As far as the compensation, 2025, 2 and a 4 and a 2025 1.
Yep.
But
right?
they also got back a couple picks this year in there.
Yeah.
I don't hate it for Jacksonville.
I love it.
I dislike it.
Yeah.
I think you make a really good point in having the chances of it being a bust, but you also have your round 1 picks in consecutive years, giving one of them back to Cleveland, who now looks like they're sitting in a pretty good position after taking Mason Campbell at 5 and then having 2 of the top 4 in the second round. I thought it was rich at the time, but I can see the path to this guy being the best player in the draft.
Yeah, and like if he ends up being the best player in the draft, it's not going to matter what you have to do to go up to get him. Like nobody's ever going to be like, why'd you go up and get the best player in the draft?
Yep.
Like from a reputational standpoint, you also have to look at the draft this way. And I'm no expert on this draft in particular, but I do know it's not a terribly talent-rich draft at the top where the ceilings are high the entire first round. So if there are true blue chip players, you get them.
Right.
You go get them, and you say, "Hey, I don't know how good the second round talents are here. I don't know how good the third."
I think Khan was on the phone and was like, "Hey, that Travis Hunter kid, do whatever to get him in the building."
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, even if the Jags still be the Jags and they disappoint everyone and lose games, Travis Hunter is going to sell so many seats. He's going to sell so many jerseys, even if it's for 1 year.
Yeah.
Like this year, he's going to work numbers for Jacksonville that they probably haven't seen in a very, very long time. And if that's the best thing that comes from it, I'm sure Shad Khan, like at the very least, would be very, very happy about
When's
that.
the last most anticipated player in Jacksonville?
Blaine Gabbert.
Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence, but I don't. This feels different. This feels like.
Oh yeah, this is way different.
This is a big deal. I know Trevor Lawrence is the first overall pick, Clemson quarterback, national champion, all that shit, bunch of hype around him. But this feels like this kid, to Nate's point, could be very popular in this city.
Well, I think one of his best attributes is his joyfulness.
Yes.
He's just always happy.
Yes.
Always has a smile on his face.
Comfortable in his own skin. Like he is who he is. Like people make fun of him. People joke on him. And the fact that like he leans into stuff and you can still tell like he's not shying away from being himself. Like that is big because people like you're the Heisman winner. You're top pick. Everyone's going to have an opinion on you. Like at the end of the day, what matters is football. And when it comes to football, the kid can play.
He's aced it.
He can play. And then he's shown, like, I follow this kid, his social medias and stuff like that before he got off of it. And just like you're saying, this kid loves fishing. And this kid loves football. Like
fishing and football, faith, family, fishing and football.
Like honestly, that's all of his social media stuff, and that's what he's using his spare time. But it's more even in his spare time when he's doing all this Twitch stuff. He's showing that he's watching tape and he's calling out guys that he's about to play against, and he's just teaching. He's like doing stuff that for the age and being in college, like you're the Heisman winner and you went on to win the Heisman, but it kind of shows in the groundwork and everything that you're doing. It's one thing to be exceptional athlete, both like athletic to play offense, defense, special teams, whatever it may be, but like the mental side of it, like that's where it gets a lot of guys, and he just has the whole package.
Third, Abdul Carter. Probably like I'm looking at this thing and I'm saying like, hey, the ledge after Carter and Hunter from a position a position player standpoint, seems like it's kind of steep, right? Like there's questions about Will Campbell. There's questions about Membu. There's questions about Jeanty being picked in the top 5, being a running back. Like the next guy that got picked is a volleyball guy.
Yep.
Right? Who didn't run well. Like there's questions about everybody. Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter seem like the 2 blue chip guys, right? The guys who are supposed to be can't miss. So if you're the Giants, I don't care if you already have Burns. I don't care if you already have Thibodeau, who they have exercised their 5th-year option on, may trade him still. Or they might roll like, hey, we've got a bunch of first-rounders and a bunch of high-paid defensive linemen, and we're going to have a deep defensive line.
Yep.
Right? Like we're going to build kind of a Philly situation. Hey, I was on a defense and we had a bunch of first-rounders. It didn't matter. When we drafted Aaron Donald, we had Brockers, we had Langford, we had all these first-rounders inside up front. We had first-rounders outside, Robert Quinn, myself. Like, we had a bunch of first-rounders, and there were people that said, do we need another first-rounder on that defensive line?
Right.
And a lot of people were like, no, including some people in the building. I'm not saying this kid's going to be Aaron Donald, but what I am saying is you should, if you believe a guy's that good, make your strength an even bigger strength. And that's what they're doing. Or they'll ship Thibodeau and they'll have bookends.
Right.
The Will Campbell pick, the Pats, like this feels like considering if he can play guard at a high level, I feel like the floor isn't as low as it could be if the guy was only a tackle. Yep. And I still think an elite, a plus guard in a draft like this, taken in the top 10, a guy that can play 10 years at guard for you, if we do slide him into guard at some point, is still a win. So, like, in that way, I think the versatility, the nasty streak, we've talked about the arms. Yes, the arms are an issue. It just might not be for this guy. It's just too hard to tell how people's games are going to translate playing against the body types and the body sizes that you play in the NFL. But the arms are an issue. The arms are evidently an issue for the Membu kid who went to the Jets a couple picks later.
Yep.
Now, Nate, you pointed this out earlier. The defensive tackle from Michigan might be the highest picked white defensive tackle. I said
he's a great white. He's the greatest.
I said I don't think that's the reality because I had to look back, but it was like Steve Entman in the early 90s. Like, there were some white boys that they drafted high at defensive tackle like 40 years ago. But in
this
a long
monumental.
time, this century for sure.
This is monumental.
Yeah.
You gotta get his jersey for your kids.
No, I don't. I really don't.
And Graham back to back might be and it's not just a white thing, might be the 2 least athletic looking people taken consecutively.
No question.
In NFL draft history.
No question.
That's crazy.
And I think
you say it's not a white thing. It's just like
it contributes.
Just walking across the stage, they look like regular guys. I mean, listen, the kid Mason Graham's not some like combine superstar. He's not some like massive kid either. He plays with good technique. You can tell he plays with good technique. Mm-hmm. He plays hard. He's a polarizing guy, I think, from a standpoint of like what the scouts thought about him.
Yeah.
But you end up with a defensive tackle from Michigan going to play in Ohio. Yep. And that's got to be pretty damn interesting for a guy that was
he'll fit great.
Was all go blue.
He'll fit great in Schwartz's schemes, a 3-tech, just one gap and cutting loose. What was the saying? Rush, crush, close.
Yeah. Like if you play with your hands and you like playing blocks, sometimes the Schwartz defense might not be for you. Like he puts disruption way up there. So if this guy likes getting down the middle of people using his hands, an adjustment for him might be he's got to get on some edges. But I like the way he uses his hands. He looks technically sound. But again, not like some overpowering talent or huge kid. Jeanty goes to the Raiders. That's like not a shock.
Yeah, Pete Carroll taking a running back.
Yeah.
Of course. Hey, that's like a borderline fetish.
It's a fetish for him. He's also got a Geno Smith fetish that he developed late in life.
Yep.
So both those things happening for him. Supposedly he had the diamond giblet Crocs.
He did. Yep. Diamond Diamond studded Crocs. I mean,
Nate pointed that out. It's called giblets.
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 That's what they're called.
Giblets.
For your Crocs.
Kids stick the giblets in the holes in their Crocs. They're like little
Giblets.
baseballs and team logos and shit. Luke has like the whole AFC East on his right foot. Like, it makes no sense.
Luke's is
He's got a
lit.
ton of giblets.
How do you feel about ace running back for a team with quite a few holes?
Got a lot of holes, but they think they're further along than I think most people do.
yeah.
Like, I think this team could be competitive quicker than people. I think there's two teams in my mind, and I'm going to go back and probably eat the fuck out of my words at some point, especially if Will Campbell can't play. But I think there's two teams to me that might play above what people think they will this year, and that could be the Raiders. I think that the New England Patriots could be pretty competitive.
Yeah.
You know, like you talk about teams whose win totals are probably going to be in the 7-9 range.
Yep.
New York Giants.
Yeah, I think the O line is
I
better.
think I'm bullish on all these shitty teams. Man.
Yeah.
None taken.
The Raiders, I think their O line's better than people think. I thought they're actually better in pass pro than what Geno had in Seattle last year. And you have a blue chip tight end. Now you add what you're hoping is a blue chip back.
That's right.
They could muddy up some spots. I mean, the receiver room is bad shape, but
It's not good.
you have some pieces.
But you know, Geno had everybody to throw to, nobody to block last year. I think he would take the protection at this point
for sure
over like, I got 5 people to throw to, but we got no offensive identity. We don't have a run game. Looks like they got a run game. Looks like the protection is going to be better than what he dealt with last year. And one thing that he's going to have that he didn't really have in Seattle is he's going to have an all-world tight end. Mm-hmm. So, like you talk about teams that have built their offenses around tight ends. Like look at Buffalo. We made a big deal about their supporting cast outside. And in some situations it bit them last year a little bit, if we're being honest. But for the most part, and they don't have a guy like the fucking guy in Vegas.
right.
I mean, they were building their offense around Kincaid and Knox.
Yeah.
You put those guys together, no disrespect to him, I'd still take Brock Bowers.
For sure.
Like, he's an exciting player.
Yeah.
So
Regarding Membu and Will Campbell, were you aware of the length of a guy's arms in the week leading up? And if a guy has shorter arms, what does that mean for you?
you can tell. I mean, you can tell by the way they set sometimes. You can tell you can tell early in the game. And really, it's just I have access to their chest. And I don't have to worry about getting punched at the wrong time. Like, pass rush is so much timing. It's so much landmarks. It's knowing when I expect to sink my move, whether it's a rip, whether it's a swipe. And I was a swipe guy. And when you play certain guys with really long arms early in a game, what you'd realize, and I don't know if you ever noticed this at guard, Nate, like when a guy would have longer arms than you thought, you'd be on your second step, expecting to sink your move on the third step, and you get hit in the head, and you're like, damn, this guy's got some length. And so that can be a real problem.
Well, I was curious what you guys think about this. I've heard it said that giving up an inch in arm length, like the way you're talking about making, like looking at your matchups, feels like a half a foot.
It absolutely does. Yeah. For defensive linemen, it's easier to overcome because I wasn't the longest arm guy, but what I could do is get sideways and go with the long arm.
Yeah.
And like people will be, oh, well, why does that make your arms longer? Well, you turn your surface, number one, when you go long arm, so guys can't punch your chest, and you extend that lever. Like all of a sudden now, your arm straight out in front of your body is X amount of inches. When I go like this, I also have the width of my shoulder. And so it's a subtle thing, but when you talk about gaining an inch or two,
right,
like my lever gets longer. I sound like the guy on the internet who goes viral saying like, what I've done is I've broken up my day into 3 separate days. You think I'm crazy? You're crazy. My first day starts 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. My second day is 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. So what I'm doing is I'm stacking days. That's what I sound like explaining the long arm to you guys. My arm is actually this long, but now it's this long. But that's the point, is like defensive sense. Linemen can actually overcome that stuff. Not so much at the offensive line. It's harder. I'd have to talk to an offensive lineman with shorter arms. I asked Daniel Jeremiah about it, and he seemed to think like he is an outlier. You talk about Will Campbell or Membu.
Yeah.
But if you have the ability to play guard at a high level, which is not as difficult in the NFL, it just isn't, then at least you can protect the floor of the pick.
Yeah.
And reputationally, from a GM standpoint, and even listen, there's some guys that would have killed for a great guard last year, late in the season.
100%.
Sam Darnold, people like that. Where the middle of the pocket's just caving, right?
Caleb, every game Caleb played last year.
Caleb, middle pressure, middle pressure is a big deal for a young quarterback. It's a big deal. So if a guy has to kick in the guard, no big deal. You look at a guy like J.C. Latham in Tennessee.
Yep.
Maybe he has to play some guard at some point.
Right.
It's not going to be the end of the world. You just have to be pretty good at it when you get there. So,
for sure.
That's all I have to say about that one.
T-Mac went 8 to Carolina.
Okay, so hear me out. Our wide receiver we drafted last year, while he's an electric personality, and I love the horse videos and everything, has not been great at catching the football. So let's go draft a wide receiver that can't run. So we've got a guy that hasn't caught the football, and now I'm just gonna tell you, I'm not saying this isn't gonna be a good pick. I haven't watched the guy enough, but the fact that he didn't run, you hear the guys talk about he didn't run a great time at the combine. You talk about not being able to separate in college. The separation becomes more of a problem, and we talked about contested catches. Okay, he's a good contested catch guy. Well, part of that might be because he doesn't separate, right? And so he has to make contested catches all the damn time. The funniest thing has been hearing the discourse around the volleyball thing. NFL is such a sport that if a guy's good at another sport, God forbid it's one that we typically associate with women playing it, it's the kiss of death. This guy might be soft. I doubt he's soft. I think he's probably a pretty tough kid. He is the kid. Didn't he say he doesn't watch film? Was that him? Can you Google that? There was a guy that made waves before the draft and said,
why would a volleyball player, why would you think about that being a bad thing?
I think it's literally it's macho culture.
Yeah, it's just the.
But have you ever watched male volleyball? That shit is crazy. Those guys are very, very
it's
athletic.
Electric. It's electric.
I'm sure it's amazing.
They're very, very and
to Chris's point, I think I've only watched female volleyball.
Right. You don't watch the volleyball during Olympics and stuff when it's on the men's and stuff.
I haven't. Not because they be
a lot of
Olympics.
Bro, that ball be getting spiked in people's faces.
I bet.
But guys are you're really jumping and kind of I don't know, putting your face in the fan in a sense. Blocking.
Per Reddit. Ooh, per Reddit. Ted McMillan does not watch football and does not watch his own film on his own time.
So that wasn't a great admission, but he must be able to play, right? Because he didn't run well.
He's literally severed. He's severance.
He's a severed individual. Yeah. He gets home at night. People are criticizing his innie. He doesn't care. He's like, that guy's a fucking piece of shit.
That's the we need to run. What? Try to do a severance football skit.
Yeah.
What if you didn't know you were a first round pick and you just came home and
you were like, why the fuck is my neck hurt so much?
Football's on? No thanks.
Why do I have this?
What's this lipstick on your collar? I was a pro football player today.
What's this Band-Aid on my butt?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I got a Toradol shot at work. No, I mean honestly, dude, the film thing, it's so easy for me to high horse it and be like, you have to watch. I watch film so fucking much. Sometimes it didn't help at all. I know it helps. I know watching film's important, but I also know a lot of guys, and maybe this is what I want to tell you. There's a lot of guys I play with that I can guarantee you didn't watch film. A lot of skilled guys I can guarantee you did not watch any fucking film on their own time. So, listen, do I think you should watch film? Don't try this at home. Absolutely. Do not try this at home. If you're a guy who's trying to make money in the NFL, don't then get caught saying I don't watch film. But I'm not going to say that that's going to keep him from being the player that they drafted. It's just listen. Another thing is, it tells me they think Bryce is the guy.
Yep.
They're just trying to build around Bryce a little bit more, which is a good deal. So you end up with it goes Membu, then it goes Tet McMillan, and then we end up with Kelvin Banks Jr. from Texas. That's where my worst seat kicks in. If anybody saw the baby that was sitting with Kelvin Banks Jr., and if it is Kelvin Banks Jr.'s baby, congratulations, beautiful baby. The baby was getting shaken a little bit during the celebration.
Yeah.
Like the baby was getting shaken a little bit. And like they shook the baby when they were clapping, and then they came back again and clapped some more, and then the baby had enough, and the baby just projectile vomited all over whoever was holding the baby. So worst seat, the baby on the Kelvin Banks Jr. set.
Yep.
The Texas kid that goes 9 to the Saints.
Yep.
And that was probably the last place for a while. Once Shedeur Sanders didn't go to the Saints, you were like, this could go a while.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think with that pick too, you kind of see like there's a compounding effect of missing on first round picks at premium spots. Like last year with the Jets taking Fashanu, that was the effect of missing Mekhi Becton however many years prior.
Yep.
You know, like this Penning thing hasn't shaken out for him. So now they're going back.
You're covering your ass,
getting another tackle with Banks. You know, Penning, maybe he can kick inside. Maybe Banks plays inside. However it shakes out. It's just one of those situations where you see, you miss a high pick, you're going to be paying for it years later too.
Yeah, and Penning can still every once in a while come in and like drive a defensive back into the bench,
right?
Help his team that way. Pick up a 15-yard penalty.
Fuaga last year short-armed offensive lineman.
Yeah,
it's in New Orleans.
Yeah,
and they say Banks can pop into guard too.
Listen,
gives that flex.
Also, what you saw tonight was like a lot of big guys getting drafted in a draft where there's not a lot of high level talent and it's a starter draft. Yeah. Like I like going out and getting as many big guys as possible. When in doubt, like get some big guys that you think are good enough to play for you because those guys don't grow on trees. And if some of these guys hit, they're 5-7 year starters for their teams. Like that's a very valuable thing up front to have on the offensive line, guys that can play multiple positions, the whole thing. Where it got interesting to me was at 10, everybody, myself included, in love with the Warren kid from Penn State. The Bears go with a receiver tight end type, Michigan
Loveland.
tight end.
Yep.
Yeah, Colston
Loveland.
Colston Loveland. The kid's impressive looking.
Yep.
He really is. I don't like he's got racked skills that look a little Bowersy.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I hate going like with a comp that quickly after you find
No, totally.
But he's that type of player.
Yeah, I think something else that jumps out from his tape too is the option routes. Like it's so impressive to see a college guy being able to execute on those, and that translates right away. Like looking at the Raiders tape in September early on, a lot of their passing game was going to Bowers and those option routes. I think you'll see that a lot with them. But yeah, Loveland there's probably two guys like categorically you could call professional route runners in this class. It's him and it's Golden, the receiver out of Texas. So
which surprised me that he went later.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
but sticking to the Chicago pick, Ben Johnson wanted to get better in the middle of the field. We talked about that. And it also says something about how good you think you are.
Yeah.
Right? Like to me, and I think Ian and Ryan are right. Like this roster's got a lot of talent. Mm-hmm. Like tight end feels like a luxury position when you've got Kmet for the moment. Yeah. And honestly, there are other places you could probably fill holes. But this kid feels like a guy with a high ceiling in the passing game. And if you think you're building a monster, like having a really dominant tight end, where a guy can go out and catch the football, when you got guys outside who can catch screens, run after the catch in DJ Moore, you've got young guys in Adunze you like. You're rounding out a pretty impressive passing offense if this guy is a hit. And I think the quarterback's going to be good next year.
Yep. And last year, Ben Johnson in Detroit, third highest rate of 12 personnel. Yeah. And when you're Ben Johnson and you have so many coaching options, during that process, you probably say, hey, how much of a say will I have in the draft? And this pick probably shows he had a pretty big one.
He had some say.
But it is interesting. Loveland first before Tyler Warren. from Penn State.
Yeah,
best seat. The two big old fucking, I don't know if they were stags or what they were, deer.
Many pointed.
Oh. They were big 12 pointers. They were like the taxidermy situation at the Loveland House was out of control, and they had a front row seat, and they were probably very proud as well of their pass catching tight end.
Wait, I didn't know that like deers get that big.
Oh, they get big.
Yeah.
Like those were big.
Oh yeah,
and I went to the those were bigger than the ones in Montana. I remember I went to the little the Elks Club for breakfast.
Well, they also could have been elk.
You saying they had elk on the wall there?
No, they had elk, deer, moose heads. They had a bunch
Not
of
bigger
stuff
than
in
the
there.
moose though. The moose is the biggest one.
No, it wasn't. But like those look like they were almost as big as the moose head.
Those are some trophies, man.
Yeah.
North American male deer usually weigh 150 to 300 pounds. Mature bucks over 400 pounds have been recorded in the northernmost reaches of their native range, namely Minnesota, Ontario, and Manitoba. There you go.
That's where I was
300
at.
pounders. They're D tackles.
Now, when it comes to another 300-pounder, Michael Williams, I mean, he looks to be almost all of 300 pounds, but he's a defensive end. He's an edge player. This guy's a prototypical defensive end, and I don't mean the way that they throw around edge all willy-nilly now, and it could be a 230-pound guy that doesn't set the edge. It could be a guy that's in a two-point stance. I'm talking about this is a throwback defensive end.
Yep.
His body type, I love it. The Niners, getting Nick Bosa a younger bookend. They've been throwing a lot at this position, whether it's a veteran, with draft picks. This is hopefully the answer that can play 3 downs for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really set an edge. If you have 2 really good edge setting ends, you can bottle up the run game, man. And I'm just a big fan of guys with that body type. Listen, he might not end up being the most instinctive rusher. That's kind of the book on him.
Yep.
But if a guy's going to give me 3 downs, I'm excited about having him on my team. And in a draft like this, listen, Trayvon Walker was a guy that when I'll admit it, I thought he was going to be the best defensive end in that class. I did. I thought it went in the right order. I didn't think Hutch was going to be a slouch or anything, but I thought Trayvon would be the best one. It hasn't turned out to be the case. It's taken him some time. But the thing I liked about him that gives him a chance, he's a big pro body guy. Like he's a big defensive end. He's a true defensive end. And another Georgia guy, coincidentally, this kid's got a shot. By the way, Trayvon Walker, now I know Hutch was hurt last year, 24 sacks, only 4 behind Aiden Hutchinson at this point in his career. So he's been no slouch, good player. This kid, big pro body type. I like the Georgia guys.
But production was a question. 14 sacks for this guy in 3 seasons at Georgia.
Right.
But
That's right.
Still young, only 20 years old.
Rare physical traits.
Rare, you can tell watching
physical
him.
Traits.
And the same thing with the other edge guy that got taken a few picks later from Georgia. Dallas at 12, Tyler Booker, Bama guard. Interesting question for you at home. Go back and tell me what the hit rate on Bama offensive lineman is. It's very hit or miss. Mm-hmm. Like we can go back to the Cyrus Quanjos of the world, the Leatherwoods, the Flukers, like, and then there's been some ones that have hit. There's been Evan Neals that haven't worked out, but like
not yet,
you say. But this kid looks to be, as you put it, Nolan, a really good gap scheme guy
for sure.
And I like the guard play that Dallas has.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you're going to need that tackle to work out. The guy you got from Oklahoma last year, he
Tyler Guyton, yeah.
Yeah, Guyton needs some time. And Terrence Steele is a bit of a liability against an elite rusher over there left end. So you kind of have to help both tackles.
Yep.
Right? Like, these guards really have to hold their own. Mm-hmm. And I'm a big fan of Tyler Smith. Another Tyler and Tyler Booker coming from Bama. That guy ran down the hallway. I love his energy. He's from up in Connecticut, tri-state, Nate, your neck of the woods, right? So we like him. We like the energy he had on draft day. Tyler Steen.
Bama, Philly,
yep.
Another Tyler.
Landon Dickerson, there's a good one, right? But, of course, those two guys that you mentioned have both flourished under the tutelage of Jeff Stoutland.
Yep.
So, like, name me a Bama offensive lineman picked high that hasn't had Jeff Stoutland.
Hasn't gone to Stoutland, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I could be missing a couple. There's probably an obvious one.
I think you're spot on. I think there's hit or miss.
The Finns, man, I stood up and screamed at the TV. If Shedeur Sanders ends up being a good player or Jackson Dart ends up being a good player, this was your chance to get out of, purgatory, Miami. Because, like, listen, here's the thing about the Miami Dolphins. They beat bad teams. That's always been their thing. They're not going to play 17 good football teams every year. They're not going to be picking up at the top of the draft.
Right.
Tua's a pretty decent quarterback. He's going to play you into the middle at the very least. Yep. So when are you going to have an opportunity? Now, I know this is pick 13. You could conceivably be here again. But, like, I thought this would be a chance, if you liked any of the quarterbacks, to maybe shock the world. Now, Dolphins fans are going to tell you, shove it up your ass, Chris. We get it. You don't like our quarterback. Next pick, Colts, Tyler Warren. Love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. They talked about the last time they drafted a tight end in the first round. It was Dallas Clark.
They was right up the block.
44.
And they're right in Virginia. He's from Atlee High School, Mechanicsville, north of Richmond.
He got to come to the river and kick it.
Yeah, we got to get Tyler Warren. Come join us on the James River in Scottsville. It'd be a great time. It's only less than an hour away, maybe for you. But how about going from catching footballs from Drew Aller in a Penn State offense to catching footballs from Danny Dimes and Anthony Richardson? What did this guy do in his last life to deserve all this?
Yeah.
This kid, I think,
catch radius important.
I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be a fucking stud. I think he looks Gronky out there sometimes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm a big fan of this kid.
Player.
Yeah, he's a football player. A little bit surprising that he wasn't the first tight end off the board, but if you wanted a real route running kind of pass catching only guy primarily, then that was your guy in Chicago.
Yeah.
In Loveland, but Tyler Warren, he's a stud.
Yeah,
he's a stud.
I think that order of those two going is kind of like DJ talked on the show the other day about how, like, with this being a solid starter draft, teams are going to stack their boards with everybody getting the same grade.
Yes.
Boards are stacked on, like, system fit.
Yep.
So it's kind of like, Ben Johnson, that Loveland flavor was more his than Warren.
Yep. No question.
And maybe half the teams had Warren stacked above Loveland. It's just
no question.
It's just like that kind of year.
And listen, if you'll remember, the last time I was surprised, and of course I wasn't a college football expert, but when Laporta went ahead of, who was the tight end that we really liked out of, was it Notre Dame? Michael Mayer, who we thought was just, and he is a good player.
Yep.
But they took Laporta first. Well, who had Laporta and coached him into being one of the best young tight ends in the game? It's Ben Johnson, that offense. So interesting that they end up with the surprising tight end going first in this draft as well. The Falcons, Jalen Walker. I love this. I've seen this guy run around. I'm a fan of his.
Totally.
Like, I haven't watched a bunch of game tape on him, but I've seen him work bags. I've seen him run around, dip. I've seen him accelerate out of a break, so to speak. Like, that top-down rush ability. Yeah. This guy's he's juicy. He's got juice, man.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about this guy, and I'm excited about the Falcons finally getting after the pass rushing part of it, because they have tried over the last couple of years, and really, as they outlined, since Vic Beasley, to solidify their pass rush. And last year it was anemic, and we knew it would be, right? When they went Penix, it's so funny. Remember when we said, hey, Penix is the right pick? And everybody's like, you're an idiot. They don't have any pass rushers. Well, had they gone out and drafted a pass rusher last year, where would they be? Right where they are.
Right.
So you're not going to be sorry you drafted Penix if he's anything like the guy we saw at the end of the season last year. And guess what? The pass rusher could wait. You're still in phase. You got two of them in the first round. You trade up to get James Pierce from Tennessee, who looks like a stud to me. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm excited about this. Raheem Morris, shout out.
Yeah.
We like the Falcons. We like Raheem.
Yep.
So we're excited about this one.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
Last season, the Falcons ranked 31st in pressure rate, so clearly a spot they want to address. They want to change that number going into 25.
I'm excited. I'm excited about what they did. I'm a defensive lineman watching them draft 2 defensive linemen, but it's like, hey, we're not fucking around. Let's just throw the kitchen sink at our problem. Mm-hmm. The Cardinals, Walter Nolan, high ceiling defensive tackle from Ole Miss. Actually, if you'll remember, this is going to be like ancient history for y'all, but there was a guy they drafted out of Ole Miss back in the day, Robert Nkemdiche. Yeah. Am I saying that name correctly?
Yeah.
They were trying to make him
Nkemdiche,
the heir apparent to Darnell Dockett. And in the same way, ironically, he was very polarizing. People were like, yeah, I just don't know if he's consistently going to bring it, if he's and yada yada. And the guy looked the part. Holy shit, he looked the part. But he never really panned out. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, they're getting a different result with Walter Nolan. I think one thing that's really good is, as you guys pointed out, guess who's back? Calais Campbell. He can help bring this kid along. If consistency and being a pro is a concern, he'll have a great guy in his room, right, to help him along. And then don't forget about the fact they brought in Josh Sweat this offseason. So another guy who's won at the highest level, who's won a Super Bowl, who's been a part of a very good defensive line. They are setting a culture up front that's going to be able to onboard this guy. If he can play, he'll be able to play there. And I think he'll be a good fit for Gannon's defense.
Yep.
Just with his body type.
Yeah, it gives you that twitched up 3 tech.
Yep. Lateral movement. Important.
Create negatives.
So then we get more defensive linemen as we get into the second half of the first round with the Bengals. We knew they were going to defense. They go Shamar Stewart, Al Golden, my old coach, their defensive coordinator. Learned tonight that this guy Shamar Stewart has longer arms than LeBron James. All right, I'm sold.
Yep.
The whole conversation about arm length. This kid's got a lot of tools. All right, Bengals. Who's going to coach him up? Who's going to help him along? Trey Hendrickson, he's got to be in the building, man. You can't drop this guy into a room with a bunch of guys that haven't learned how to win rushes, right? Like, they're going to be more defensive picks. They're going to throw more shit at the wall, trying to make something stick over the next couple of days defensively for the Bengals. But this is a good start.
Yep.
Seahawks, they solidify the front. This guy Gray Zabel,
great name.
Looks like a total guard. He played all up and down the line, which is a good thing. Like, it's nice the guy can play different spots, but I think he's a guard. North Dakota State University, high character guy, could have left for more money, but ended up wanting to stay and play with his brother, won a championship. Guys like that, like the Quinyon Mitchell thing, like there's something to when a guy stays put and finishes. Like that to me says something about his character, the grit of the player. You know, we talked about Quinyon Mitchell last year where I was hearing rumors at Eagles camp that he could have gone and played at any number of really good paying NIL type programs, stayed at Toledo, and decided to finish it out with his guys. Like that's a good deal. And then he had the Settlers of Catan board game like displayed almost like he wants Catan to give him the bag. Yeah. The guy who started Settlers of Catan lives in Charlottesville, Virginia, by the way.
Oh, I'm told that every 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, Bo Allen's a big fan of the game. But I like this Gray Zabel guy. And I would say the hit rate on North Dakota State players and South Dakota State players is actually pretty good.
Yeah, it feels like every year they put out a good pro.
Yeah, they put out some good pros. You get your Trey Lances. But you could get an MVP season kind of Carson Wentz. You could get a Dallas Goedert from the Dakotas.
Right.
You never know. Dallas Goedert, by the way, might be on the trading block. I hate to see that happen. He's one of my favorite Eagles.
What do you think the population of Pierre, South Dakota is?
We went through that.
So much for that alley-oop.
I can't remember.
14,000.
14,000. Pierre with 2 R's.
That's right. Capital city.
So then we get into Tampa Bay. Emeka Ibuka, okay? This is a wide receiver. We're looking at this guy and saying, hey, another wide receiver, but it makes a lot of sense because it feels like 10 years ago, but Godwin hurt his knee again this year, right? And Evans is getting older. Like, there is going to be a post-Godwin and Evans world. I love McMillan. I think that was a really good pickup last year. But this kid's going to add another weapon for Baker Mayfield and somebody who can learn under these guys. And also help you. Injuries are part of the game. These guys are older. Godwin coming off an ACL. Like, you don't know how he's going to respond.
Yep.
I don't mind this.
Exactly.
Now, you could go pass rush for sure.
Totally.
Exact same size as Godwin, this guy.
Receivers come in all different shapes and sizes, different skill sets. If you're trying to picture this guy, think JSN, what you just watched in Seattle last year. He's strong, he's smart, zone coverage killer in the middle of the field.
I mean, swear to you, I had the same thought. It's like, I don't know if it's just a cookie cutter comp, but
On Ohio State.
The whole thing. Yep. I think this is going to pay dividends for them. I trust Tampa's program. I question their ceiling, but I trust the program. You know,
Totally.
The Broncos, man. Broncos going out and getting another corner in Barron. This is another like, hey, we got a strength. Fuck it, let's make it stronger.
Double down.
Yeah.
You know, and as you said, this guy can play the slot.
Yeah, I think he'll play the slot there with Surtain and Moss outside. DJ said he reminds him of Brian Branch, which like that catches your attention. I think if teams knew what Branch was, hindsight being 2020, he's probably a top 15 pick, and he went in the second round. So he can solve a lot of problems. Shout out to our guy Pat Crowley at Texas, coaching up Barron, and I think it's a great fit for them. Knowing, you know, you look at that division, Mahomes, Geno, Herbert.
Yeah,
like you got to be ready to play the pass.
No question. You look at, like, I was looking because, hey, the Chargers invested in a running back, the Raiders invested in a running back. Like, who's good at stopping the run in that division? Well, the Broncos were very good up front. They were stingy up front.
Yeah.
The one place I think they can improve from here on out is that linebacker in coverage.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously you always want to add in the pass rush, but you got now 3 good corners. And the middle of the field is going to be where you can beef up from here on out. But the Broncos, I think the Broncos might fuck around and be pretty good this year. I mean, they were pretty good last year. They could be even better this year, and they just beefed up the secondary. The Steelers,
at 21, took Shedeur Sanders, quarterback, Colorado.
yeah,
They set it up for us all night long.
they sure did, and it didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
They went with Derek Harmon, who they hope to replace Cam Hayward with eventually.
D. Harmon.
Steelers going to win a lot of 9-6 football games, just like they like it. Not sure who's going to play quarterback. It could be Aaron Rodgers. Maybe this is where you say, hey, fuck it. We make it happen. First day, the quarterback thing didn't shake out the way we wanted it to shake out. I don't know what would have happened that maybe they would have picked a quarterback at 21, but I doubt it would have been anything because Shedeur and Jackson Dart were sitting right there. That's who was probably going to be there. It seems like maybe this was part of their plan all along, which makes me wonder why, if Rodgers was the answer, like why they haven't done it yet.
Right.
So I'm not sure what they're doing at quarterback this year, like the rest of America.
Nope. It's Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson on the depth chart right now.
What the fuck rabbit do they have in their hat? Is it just Rodgers?
Could be Kirk Cousins.
Could be Jalen Milroe.
It could be Jalen
Could be
Milroe.
Riley Leonard.
Yep.
Will Howard.
Yeah.
Will Howard.
I don't know if any of these guys are going to your point, step in.
Trump
week
likes
one.
Will Howard.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Trump
He also said the Bears still suck. That's what
Clay Matthews.
That's what Clay Matthews said.
Yep.
That was interesting. And wouldn't it be something if he lost, if like the midterms just went terrible because Trump said that the Bears still suck?
Yeah.
But do you think Trump really told that to Clay Matthews?
I don't think so.
I think that's just so funny. Why Clay Matthews just throw Trump under the bus like that?
I don't know that he thought he was throwing Trump under the bus.
He thought it was like a good joke, but he was just so pleased with himself up there after that.
I got nervous.
Yeah, me too.
My
He
blood
stuck the
started
landing
racing.
on it.
I think he just wanted to say Donald Trump into the
Yes.
microphone.
Yeah, that's what it felt
I
like.
thought he was going to be like, we have deported the 7th pick.
That would have been ballsy. But what he did up there was ballsy.
It was.
Hey, Roger, I'm going to go off script here.
All right. So, anyways, Roger's butthole was puckered. Oh man. Okay. All right. So now we've got the Chargers, who, most people are like, wide receiver, please. You lose Josh Palmer.
Right.
Lab McConkey can't catch all the balls.
He can.
Quentin Johnson.
He's gonna have to.
Mike Williams is back.
Mike Williams.
Okay. They must like some late round guys, right? Like,
Yeah.
And yeah, they had trouble running the ball last year late in the season. I mean, like early in the season, there was a game where they were running 9 yards a pop. But that did not hold.
Right.
And so, like investing in a running back is a very Harbaugh thing to do here and say, hey, we're gonna smash mouth you to death, and we're in the AFC West.
Yep.
That seems to be the trend. It's going to be a physical division.
Oh, yeah.
The Raiders are physical offensively. This team wants to be physical. The Chiefs are a physical outfit. Like when they're at their best, they're physical, they're fast, it's quick game. And then on top of that, you have the Broncos who are a physical football team.
Greenlaw, Ufanga.
Yeah,
A lot of blue tent trips in Denver this
no
season.
question. A lot of collisions.
But the Chargers did sign Najee Harris in the offseason.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
we're in the
Easy to forget.
ACC. And with respect, I was not familiar with Omarion Hampton's.
Which is not a good thing
before
because
this
you
evening.
watch a lot of ACC.
Yeah. I didn't love running back at that spot.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I do love? The Packers drafting a wide receiver, although that might not be good news for our guy Wicks.
Right.
I think it's more bad news for Watson.
Yeah.
Especially, I think Wicks is helpful. I think he's
Yeah,
part
they
of the
love him.
solution, and they really like him. And famously, this offseason, he was like, we don't need any more help, when Josh Jacobs was like, hey, we need a number one, right? But this guy Golden from Texas got a huge ovation. And if you're going to draft a wide receiver, I like drafting a confident one. And
Yep.
nothing says confidence more than breaking down the crowd, Green Bay on 3, taking the microphone, getting up, and just like stream of consciousness being like, yeah, I'm going to break down the crowd right here,
Right.
Green Bay on
Just
3.
with the guys.
Yeah.
And done perfectly.
Yeah.
He's done
Like
really well.
100% participation. from
It's
the
always a
crowd.
good time when you talk about breaking down, a group of people on 3 to remind you that my little league coach used to break us down. What do you say no to? And we'd all say drugs. And so if you were up on the hill and the Elks down at McIntyre Little League used to scream drugs. All right, so
I wish that was the breakdown for Matthew Golden.
yeah.
Does
What
anyone,
do you say no to?
Does anyone recall the 2002 receiver taken by the Green Bay
Hollandaise.
Packers
Huh?
in the first round?
Hollandaise
The
for
last
sure.
2002?
Receiver.
That was the last receiver taken in the first round, 2002. Did he end up being a good player?
Wait, sorry. Can you say the question again?
The
Don't
last
look.
Packers receiver taken in the first round, 2002.
83 games played, 4,000 career yards receiving, 31 touchdowns. Started with Green Bay 02, 03, 04, 05, then Denver 06, 07, then Oakland 08, and that was it.
Jeez Louise.
He played college in the ACC
Oh,
for Florida
Jordan
State.
Nelson.
No.
No?
At Florida
Donald
State?
Driver.
Isaiah Kajuba.
Florida State?
Yeah. I don't remember the name.
Well, tell him.
Javon Walker.
Javon Walker,
Jay Walt.
I think Jordan Nelson did finish with
as
the Raiders.
as we know him.
Jay Walt.
Javon Walker.
And then pick us up after Green Bay, because that's where we end up walking over here to record. What
Yeah, so Vikings came on at 24, took Donovan Jackson, guard out of Ohio State. For them, just a good pick, just fortifying the interior of the O-line. Really good guard prospect. He actually played some tackle last year when Simmons went down, their left tackle. But for them, just kind of continuing that
Look at
theme
that, though.
of getting
Yeah.
JJ protected.
Listen, J.J. McCarthy got hurt last year in preseason. I don't think it was about the fact that he got hurt, but I think it's as much about the bloodbath that was that Rams game in the playoffs. Like, if I'm Kevin O'Connell, I never want to see that happen again. And obviously bringing in Fries, and the other guys that they brought in this offseason, to beef up Brian Kelly, try to beef up the offensive line. They're not done. They're also going to get Darisaw back this year.
Yep.
Right? He was infamously injured at the end of the first half in that first Rams game. And that's where it kind of all went downhill. So to add the piece that they added tonight, like obviously they're very serious about this.
Yep. And then the 25th pick was the trade to bring in
Jackson
the future
Dart.
of the Giants.
If you got a quarterback, what do you want your last name to be?
Dart.
Maybe Long,
Dart.
maybe Dart.
Yeah, Jackson Dart.
Bullet.
Bullet.
Guy's a movie character quarterback.
Accurate.
Let me say this.
Yeah.
When they made the trade, Brian Daboll looked like he thought, I'm going to have this job longer than I thought I was going to have it. Like he looked really excited.
Yep.
So like if you trust them and you trust Brian Daboll, he's excited about the pick,
Well, yeah, for that very reason. He just got a longer leash because he got a rookie quarterback.
Not if this guy sucks. I don't think it's one of those things where like this buys him a year. I think for him to keep his job, this guy has to be decent this year at the very least. And if he's good enough to keep Brian Daboll's job this year, I think you might have a quarterback.
And what week ideally does he trot out there with Russell Hustle and Bustle in the room?
Week 6.
Jameis in the room.
Week 6.
Well, hey, May 14th, we find out who the Giants will be playing in week 6.
Holy shit, how about that schedule rollout?
Golly.
While the respective fan bases wait to hear about the futures of their franchises, we're going to tell you what date we're going to release the schedule.
Well, how about when they started that? My
schedule
dumbass is sitting there listening to them, knowing that the schedule's not coming out tonight. No schedules are coming out tonight. And I'm like, oh, maybe they're going to drop someone's schedule tonight.
Yeah, and there could have been at least like a tease.
Yeah.
Like, what's the opening game of the season?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what's the
Or you
said
could
it
have
was
just put it
the-
on a fucking Chiron or a ticker.
Uh-huh.
You know, hey, the schedule's going to be out May 14th. But I thought Colleen Wolfe did a great job.
They did a great job.
They did a great job. It was just a tough ask.
Tough assignment.
Tough assignment to get up there. It's like I was
schedule release date release.
Yes, it's like doing stand up before a concert. I just saw that happen in real time, and I'm like, nobody came to hear the stand up. It's
Right.
a tough crowd. It's the same thing for those two ladies that had to go out there and tell you May 14th.
Yeah.
So I just didn't think that was a real good
STL
program.
Memorial.
STL Memorial, Colleen Wolfe, and who else was it?
Laura
Rutledge.
Rutledge.
Laura Rutledge. They did a great job.
Yep.
Next.
Next was the Falcons doubling down on edge with
Love that.
James Pierce.
Looks like
Love
a
that.
freaking wide receiver at edge.
Yep.
Dude, his hips are so like he's a string bean in a good
long
way.
and
Like,
lean. Yep.
to be 250 something, all of 6'5", like that guy can get it.
4.4740.
He can get it.
27. Ravens come on the clock and take Malachi Starks out of Georgia, a player I know Eagles fans were hoping for, a very versatile safety.
I ran a 4.74. You want to talk to me about genetics? You want to talk to me about genetics? You want to tell me I had genetics?
Well, 10 split.
10 split was incredible. 10 split was incredible.
Yep.
Question
But these
mark
guys are running 4.4s and 4.5s now.
Wild.
biggest question mark on Pierce has been strength.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Can't have it all.
For sure. But if you can rush a passer in this league,
You could burn the edge.
all right, what we got next?
So Starks to the Ravens
Yeah.
gives them a safety. Safety play was a problem.
Yes, it
for
was a
most of the
problem.
season last
Famously,
year.
if you remember a couple of those games, it was I heard some people term it like some of the worst safety play. And this was like middle of the season before they really turned it around. They moved Kyle Hamilton back to safety. Another thing is this guy's going to play with Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah.
It's a
For sure.
dream.
It's a good spot for him.
And the Eagles were penciled in to draft him, according to some people, and that the team picked up on that rumor this week, but never got there.
Yeah, he didn't get there. And then at 28, the Lions take Tyleik Williams, D-tackle at Ohio State.
Right.
Add a piece to that rotation with Reeder, with Aleem McNeil, and gives you some more injury insurance. You know, that was what worked against them down the stretch last year. Another tackle for the Commies at 29, Josh Connerly out of Oregon, which is just interesting. Probably, kind of a luxury pick for them. maybe they didn't feel too good about the corners and the edge guys still available. Obviously, those are still holes for them defensively.
But they figured it out last year. They hit the lottery. Protect your lottery ticket.
Yep.
Tunsil.
Yep.
Connerly.
Yep. No question.
And they also have the kid from TCU who I really liked last year that could probably move around a little bit.
Coleman,
so, they are investing in that front, and they got their guy last year. So,
Bills go corner at 30. Maxwell Harrison
that.
gives them, a potential starter opposite Benford on the perimeter, and then of course the Eagles taking linebacker Jahad Campbell out of Bama at 31.
Who I don't know so much about.
Really,
but he's a big guy. I mean,
big guy, big athlete, really rangy, really explosive, sideline to sideline speed. And you think about Fangio and all the split safety coverages. You need linebackers to be able to cover a lot of ground.
Yes.
In the middle of the field and coverage. So, all of a sudden, obviously the Eagles, it's been something talked about for years.
Yeah, we don't invest in
linebackers, and now you got Zach Bond and a first rounder and Jahad Campbell. So pretty exciting.
Well, it's funny. Nakobe Dean worked out for them ultimately.
Yeah.
He's given them some really quality snaps.
Mm-hmm.
And Zach Bond wasn't somebody that when they acquired him looked like an investment.
Right.
Of the highest
order.
He took a flyer on him, and
Yeah.
And honestly, the guy that they went out with the intent to play a lot of snaps for them last year was Devin White, and they knew in camp that he wasn't the answer.
Mm-hmm.
So they've gotten there, maybe not how they thought they would, but they've gotten there. And if this kid can play, good news. And they are in that mode where it's like, hey, we're picking for luxury right now.
Yep.
Like we're just kind of like making sure everything's perfect.
Yep.
We talked about the offensive line the other day, like with the contract for the center and Juergens, like almost that entire line is locked up at least through 27, right?
Yeah, through 27, yep.
So the offensive line's in good shape. The wide receivers are in good shape. There are rumors that they're going to make a play for Jalen Ramsey or something like that, which I love Jalen Ramsey, okay? And I think Slay played pretty well for them down the stretch. Obviously, he's not there anymore.
Yep.
You're going to have to replace a corner. You lost some pass rush, right?
Mm-hmm.
You lost Josh Sweat. You lost Milton Williams. You're going to have to find a corner, right? But at this point, they must have felt really strongly about this kid and that they could snag him at this spot.
And giving up a fifth to jump ahead of Kansas City.
Yep.
And then
doing business with the team you just shit kicked.
Yep.
Right. And then first round wraps with the Chiefs taking Josh Simmons, tackle out of Ohio State. He's an interesting one because the experts say if not for an October, I believe it was a season-ending knee injury, he would have been the first tackle off the board. Just a really gifted prospect. So if he's healthy, you're going to have a long-term starter there at left tackle for them. So we'll kind of see how that shakes out.
Well, listen, you'd like to not have to move your guards out to tackle in the biggest games of the season. And, and the guy they drafted out of BYU last year just didn't work out. Kingsley Suamatea.
Yep.
They brought in Humphreys at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Thought you might get some snaps out of him. Really didn't.
No bueno.
The guy they grabbed from Jacksonville a couple years ago, he hasn't lined up on sides in 2 years.
Juwan Taylor, yeah.
So they're due. They're due to hit on one of these acquisitions at tackle.
It was a patellar tendon for Simmons. Same for Nakobe Dean. Is that right?
Yeah, you might
Sounds
be
right.
Yep.
Simmons' uncle, Chris Fuamatu Ma'afala of Pittsburgh Steelers fame.
Of course.
Former Ute. A little bit before your time, Nolan.
He's not a Ute anymore.
Sounds like you nailed that pronunciation there.
I did. He was one of my favorites.
So that was the first round. There'll be more draft analysis to come. We'll talk to a draft expert on Monday. We won't tell you who yet. Or should we?
Not yet.
Okay, we won't yet, just in case he flakes on us. Like the little bitches we are. But we will talk to a draft expert hopefully on Monday. There was your first round, the least exciting first round in the history of the NFL draft.
But isn't Shedeur like not getting picked? Isn't that like excitement?
I guess that adds a little bit of intrigue for tomorrow. I think he just ends up being
the league is thrilled.
Yes.
I mean, what that does for ratings tomorrow. Yeah. I mean,
so who gets picked first? Joe Sanker or Shedeur Sanders?
I think
interesting dance partner.
I think
let's go Blues. The Blues beating Winnipeg.
I think Shedeur is the first player off the board on Friday night.
Oh, no matter what?
Whether it's Cleveland or somebody else coming up to trade.
To get him?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're Cleveland.
What about the Cowboys at 44? No way?
I mean, if he falls that far,
Cowboys got
anything's possible.
Possible.
Looking at the second round, the Browns picked twice in the first 5 picks.
I think the Browns
are going to take him with the fourth one.
Pick.
Take him with the first one.
Yeah.
What if Deion tonight is calling the Browns or being like, "Do not pick my son"?
How's that worked out so far? That do not pick my son. We're gonna pick where he goes. I think part of. I don't think it's like a high percentage of why, but I think a tiny bit of it is like
they don't want to deal with stuff.
Yeah, like if you're gonna call your shot, like maybe you're not our guy. Like
right.
Whether that's a good way to evaluate whether the guy's your guy or not. But I do think NFL franchises look at like some of the declarations that have been made and don't see it as a positive.
Right.
If they thought he could play, they'd already picked him.
For sure.
Right. But I do think that does factor into maybe some of the trepidation too, is like, all right, what are we getting? Are we getting like a player who's going to be micromanaged from outside the building?
Yeah.
Yada, yada, yada. We'll see. I think Cleveland Browns, you do it.
Cleveland.
You do it. Maybe he's the guy that can pull the sword from the stone, dude.
Yeah, honestly, I actually, you look at the quarterback room with Flacco and Pickett there, I actually don't think that's a bad place to land.
It's really not.
Obviously, Cleveland has the history with QBs, and it's a bad one, but those are two vet guys who have been through it.
Now, will he be taking a pay cut? We talked about players taking pay cuts. Nate, you brought this up. You were like, can a guy take a pay? How many guys are taking pay cuts from? And I think the answer is more than you think. You know, some of these guys that make a lot of money at some of these big schools and then don't get picked in the first round. Like, I don't know what the Cleveland Browns, you know, the 5th pick or the 3rd pick of the second round is going to get paid next year, but I think he was making $5-6 million at Colorado.
Yeah.
So
that should be a good thing, though. Like, right? Like, so that you're not worried about that. And
well, I think
of that
today's athletes less worried, presumably, than.
And it's something where, like, I don't know how all those deals and what deals he has, but the deals aren't going to stop. I wouldn't think.
He's going to make some money off the field.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. You're still going to be a draft pick, not the first rounder. Like, obviously it might be, but just like we're saying, like, Shedeur's coming from a family where it's not like, yeah, maybe he does want signings where he's getting paid $50 to $100 per item or whatever it may be.
Listen,
but
yeah,
it's just like, that doesn't really have to be a priority.
He's going to do 6 figures in endorsements easy. I mean, he might do 7 figures in endorsements easy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, and part of that is going to be he's Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
But again, like, to drive the point home, like, getting picked in the top 5 in today's NFL, like, if you weren't old CBA, like back in the day, it doesn't matter as much. You know, the thing that matters is the situation that you end up in and how probable is it that you'll be able to cash in on the second deal. Because the second deal can change your life forever. And, you know, like, it's funny. We talk about Deion Sanders or somebody like me who's second generation NFL, and you say, hey, they don't need the money, that type of thing. And it's true. And guys like myself are lucky because, hey, my dad played in the league, or Shedeur, whose dad played in the league, who's coaching, getting paid now, and he's getting paid in college, which some we weren't. He ain't the only one that doesn't need the money, judging by some of these draft parties. Jackson Dart doesn't need the fucking money. You know what I'm saying? Like, a couple of these guys, a couple of spreads I saw today, they don't need the money either. So, when you talk about motivation and like what drives these guys and how devastating sliding in the first round is, it really, to me, is as much about like your career prospects as it is how much you get paid tonight. For some guys, a first round top 10 pick is going to change their lives forever. But how many of those top 10 picks weren't making life-changing money anyways at their respective schools last year? I don't know what the answer would be, but I don't think it's too many of them. I wonder what Ted McMillan was making in Arizona.
Right.
That's an interesting conversation to me. All right, well, that's going to be that. Anything else, guys, from the first round that you think's worth talking about?
Nah. Our friends at PFF have given out grades of below average, average, above average, good, very good, and elite. 2 picks got below average. Tyler Booker to Dallas, Jackson Dart to New York.
Well, listen,
that doesn't make you feel well.
Listen, I'm kind of on Scott Van Pelt's page on this thing. When I say that it is the dumbest fucking thing in the world to try to grade a draft immediately after. I mean, like, that is the most – it's the most –
At least 3 years.
Yeah, wait 3 years.
Like, you need at least 3 years.
Wait 3 years.
To be able to judge it.
Yeah, but we content can't wait. So
right,
but ours can. We'll be back on Tuesday with more content. Much of it will be on the NFL draft and the late rounds. Y'all take care.